Alrighty, guys, we're gonna be starting the podcast right now, guys. All right, guys. How you guys doing? This is Devil's Advocate again, DA. All right, guys, we're gonna be doing a full show today. We're gonna be talking about a lot of things. There's gonna be some updates to the Ahmaud Arbery case. There's gonna be some updates to some other cases, guys. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, guys. Let me know if you like my new overlay, my new style of doing things, guys. I'm going to be making a lot more content for you, a lot more content that you guys like, but at the same time, the content that I like to make. Now, with that being said, I'm going to be releasing some more news and views in a minute or less. I'm also going to be releasing a new Bad Cop No Donut on next week, guys. I just released one that I'll be showing during the break when I go away. Now, with that being said, we're going to be discussing several things, but before we get into that, guys, I want to go ahead and get some things off my chest. I want to go ahead and tell you, I want to remind you every day how much I fucking hate cops. They are the shit. They are shit. Can I get a fuck 12? Instead of saying amen, can I get a fuck 12? You know, fuck 12, basically. You know, fuck 12 every time that they work hand in hand with the IRS to take your tax dollars. Meanwhile, you know, it's in especially if you don't pay. And meanwhile, they're getting paid in your tax dollars too. Can I get a fuck 12? Can I get a fuck 12 every time for every man out there who's been shit on by the system, and then the cops go out of their way to make sure that the system keeps fucking you over? Can I get a fuck 12? Now, with that being said, welcome to the stream, everyone. I want to go ahead and tell you right now, fuck 12 for every time that a child came forward and tried to report a sexual assault and the police did nothing. Fuck 12 for that. Fuck 12 for every Boy Scout who ever came forward and was not believed by the police, and thus their abuse continued. Fuck 12 for that. Fuck 12 for every woman who has come forward saying that their husband or their significant other was beating them. It's a legitimate case, not a bullshit case like my fucking ex. But you know, she apparently she's done that to multiple men now. But apparently again, fuck 12 for every time that's happened. Fuck 12 for every time, you know, someone like me has to go and clean up their mess, or look into one of their sheriffs, and look into one of their police chiefs. You know, in 13, you know, we've had 13 police chiefs, just police chiefs, right, in the past decade in one state, and that's just chiefs. We're not talking about, you know, sheriffs yet. Now that's just fucking chiefs. You know, I want to fuck 12 for that. Fuck 12. You know. Because again, like that again, I want you guys to understand that there's a reason why I go at cops as hard as I do. There's a reason why I do that. Let me show you why. Because see, the cops didn't want to investigate the Ahmaud Arbery case, and I want you guys to see the result of that. What happened as a result of that? Arbery update. So look at the update. Cause you know I actually care about the about Ahmaud Arbery. In fact, we're gonna go look it up on YouTube. See, look it up on the YouTubes. You know, because Tim Pool specifically told me that Ahmaud Arbery, he was a criminal. He did everything wrong, which is strange. Now, turn the volume up a little bit. We're going to watch that video. So I want you guys to see this video. I want you guys to see why I say fuck 12. Let me go ahead and change up the camera view here. See, I want y'all to see why I say fuck 12. Because 12 ain't shit. We're going to go ahead and play this real quick for you guys. I want you guys to see this, why I say fuck 12. Because 12 ain't shit. All right. You guys ready? You guys ready to hear this? Because I want you guys to see, all right, the 12 ain't shit.
Body cam video showing the moments just after the deadly shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. Two men, a father and son, chasing him through that Georgia neighborhood. And what they told police at the scene. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, now.
All right, guys, everybody's got their weapons up, correct?
Tonight, newly released body camera footage revealing more insight into the death of Ahmaud Arbery. One of the suspects charged in Arbery's murder, Greg McMichael, speaking to authorities moments after his son Travis fatally shot the unarmed 25-year-old. Arbery's body still in the street.
And they start wrestling, and Travis shoots him right in the damn chest. The guy was trying to take the shotgun away from him.
William Roddy Bryant, who captured cell phone video of Greg and Travis McMichael chasing Arbery, appearing to tell police about his alleged involvement in the incident.
You're a passerby coming through?
No, not necessarily.
Attorneys for Bryant have insisted he was simply a...
Now, we're going to pause it there. I have a special interview for you guys. A very special interview that I want you guys to see that I'm going to do in a second. Okay. All right, so I have an interview that I'm gonna do with you guys. Hey, Slappy, you're gonna see something really, really cool. You all gonna see something really cool. So today, I was gonna read some news stories. So I am still going to, but I'm gonna get a woman named Brenda Bryant on the line, and I want you guys to see this. Okay. Hey, Miss Brenda.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Miss Brenda. How you doing?
Ooh. Better now. I got my car alarm on.
Right. So Miss Brenda, you are actually live on my channel. I actually have run a podcast show now. I still do my normal videos, but I decided to call you and get an interview so that you could actually tell people what happened to you.
Okay. All right. Now, am I just on? Oh, I'm live now. Am I video? Are you videoing as well?
You don't have to. No. It could be all just audio. What I want you to do, Miss Brenda, is to simply tell your story. That's all I want you to do. Just simply tell your story. I want you just to, and guess what? This podcast show runs as long as I need to run. So guess what? Take as long as you need. Put in every detail that you all want. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself so that people can hear you, and I'm gonna go ahead and make this a dedicated type of video. Go ahead and tell your story.
Okay. I'm gonna start out with an introduction. My name is Brenda Bryant, and I am a mother. My husband is Ricky Bryant. I'm sorry. I should have included that first. Ricky and I have been married now 45 years. And we had a family until the beginning of our family, I guess you would call our family crisis, began with, I'm sorry, I have to. Hey, can you start over?
No. Hey, Miss Brenda, take as long as you need. This is actually live, so people can actually hear you live. So just take as long as you need. If you make a mistake, that's fine. You can do it back over. But I want you to give the people your story in your own words. I don't want to curate this. I don't want to edit this. I want this to be the whole story. That way, there's nothing left out. You get the whole story.
Okay.
And I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. First of all, I think it's important to say that Ricky and I, as I said, we've been married 45 years. October 26th, we celebrated 45 years of marriage. I had a 2-year-old child when I started dating Ricky, and Ricky just automatically became the right person for Stephanie. We did not know at the time that Stephanie would have special problems, but it started out, Ricky, we got engaged, and Ricky knew that he would have a 2-year-old child to raise as well. And that makes him a very special person to me. And so, yeah, after we got married, we began to realize that Stephanie was not developing it. At the time, she was 2 years old when we got married. Stephanie never had any, she had no physical appearance of anything being wrong with her having any kind of problems. But the only thing that, she was definitely developmentally just walking. She didn't start walking. Am I still on? Hello?
Yes, Mr. Brenda. You are still on. I'm just typing out the story in the
Okay.
in the chat so people could actually follow, like
Right.
actually go and and follow. So I want you to get the whole story. So to kind of like recap, basically this whole story is about this woman, Brenda Bryant. Before I let her go on. Her daughter Stephanie was gang raped and got an STD in an adult care facility in the state of South Carolina. I'm just gonna say that so far, but you can lead up to that point or just keep going. But I just want people to understand what they're walking themselves into. That what you're about to hear is one of the greatest injustices, and probably the greatest injustice I think I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen a lot. But Miss Brenda, you take it away.
Okay. So we dedicated ourselves, Ricky and I, to Stephanie. We found out that she was special needs. She was about I'd say about 2.5 years old. She was diagnosed. After much testing, we would find out that she was developmentally delayed. And when I say that, they use a different term. 40 some odd years ago, 45 years ago, they used a different term. Stephanie is mentally challenged. She reads on about a first grade level. I want the audience to realize that this is a child. This is not a 47-year-old adult. She is childlike in all of her ways. This is someone that does not drive a car, that has never, could not go on dates, could not find herself back. If she was lost in the neighborhood, she couldn't get back home, which she never was lost when she was with me. So Stephanie, while she has, she did learn to read, she did learn to do things that doctors told us that Stephanie would never do. Stephanie needed supervision. Supervision was my role in my life. It was my goal in my life to protect her. And that protection began the day she was born, and as a mother, the day she was diagnosed with special needs. I didn't know what that entailed, but I did know that Stephanie would need special attention. And I worked with her. I helped her. She needed, even in school, when she went to kindergarten, we realized that Stephanie was not developing. And so we took her out of public school, and we placed her in a private school where Stephanie began. That's when she actually began to learn how to read. So okay, so we're going through. This is Stephanie's childhood. This is mine and Ricky's. Our life was that he worked, I stayed home, I took care of Stephanie, and anywhere I went, Stephanie went. We only had a couple of people that we trusted to care for her, and that was Ricky's mother She stayed with my mother some. And we had one babysitter in the neighborhood who I'm friends with still to this day. And no one, we didn't trust. I mean, it was just that Stephanie was different, and we knew what kind of care she needed. And so anyway, she went through, finally, she stayed in a private school for several years. Then we took her and put her in public school. And Stephanie began to, she was in special education. And of course, again, I reiterate to anyone listening, Stephanie required supervision. She could get away very quickly. And so I had to watch her and be with her at all times. So she wasn't the child that you let go down the neighborhood or you let go next door, because people did not understand her developmentally, that she couldn't understand things. So moving forward, at the age of 16, I think one of the highlights in Stephanie's life was we had her birthday party. Birthdays are very important to her. And we took her to Pizza Hut, and she had a birthday party. Stephanie would always make comments like, "I've always dreamed of this." And she said, I've always dreamed to work at Pizza Hut. And so, as a mother, I wanted her to experience some of her dreams. And so I went to the manager that day, and I said, "She's turned 16 years old. And I said, she wants to work here. Do you have anything you can do that she could do?" I had to fill the application out for her. And he hired her. That was her birthday present from Pizza Hut. He gave her a job washing dishes. And so I did trust that, and they did, take care of her. And she lived all week long to get to her job at Pizza Hut. That was her dream. So she had a dream come true. And so it was very interesting that, I'll bring this up later, one of the allegations in removing me as guardian. So Stephanie had a job at Pizza Hut. She went to school. I was her room mother in the special ed class. We helped her to do things. We advocated for her to be able to be treated fairly. Just because a person with special needs doesn't mean that they are not human. In fact, they are very much human, and they deserve to be treated that way. Treated like anyone else, and everyone deserves to be treated like that. So Stephanie had a case manager. We signed her up for the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. That is the state agency that gets the funding for group homes, residential facilities, respite for families. And so she had a case manager. The case manager would come over. They would do once a year an evaluation, and then, of course, parents had to fight DDSN hard to get any respite, even though DDSN went to the legislators and said they wanted X number of dollars, and we're talking multi-millions of dollars, for respite, so that families could get some respite that were caring for someone 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so we were able to get, especially when I I had spinal cord surgery and injury, I had to get respite for Stephanie. Well, DDSN began to ask me, the case manager, she said, you know, Stephanie is coming up on 18 years of age, and we have group homes, and we've just started up some group homes, and I think it would be a good idea for Stephanie to move and become more independent. And I said, I said, no, Stephanie has a family. I was very adamant that Stephanie was going to stay with her family. We went to church. Stephanie had a job at Pizza Hut. She was in her special ed class. She could stay there till she was 21. And her special ed teacher was just a wonderful teacher and cared so much about her. And so at the age of 18, Stephanie turned 18 years of age. And before her next birthday of 19 years of age, one day Stephanie didn't come home from school. And I thought, well, something's wrong. And the bus didn't show up, and I called the school and I said, has there been a bus accident? And they said, no, ma'am, we haven't got a bus accident reported. So I'm calling all over, trying to find out. So finally, I called her special ed teacher. And her special ed teacher, Jeannie Hoosman, informed me. She said that the caseworker had come to Stephanie's school. Stephanie signed a form, and Stephanie, the case manager, took Stephanie. Now, there was no accusations, no allegations. Nobody was called. Stephanie just went to school one day and didn't come back home. And the teacher was very bothered about it because she was very concerned, because she said she knew how much I loved Stephanie and how much I had cared for her. And so the teacher said that the case manager wouldn't even listen to her. Just the fact that they could actually go to Stephanie's school, pull her out of class, and have a person that couldn't read, but on a first grade level, to sign a 4-page legal document. Stephanie had no clue, but she gave the state of South Carolina the right to cut off her limbs in the event of an emergency. She also gave them the right to take possession of her and make any kind of life decisions which would have cut her. In other words, if she would have been in an accident or had an illness, Stephanie would have been if she was on life support, not the family, but the state of South Carolina, the DDSN would make the decision to take her off of life support. She had no clue what she signed. Immediately, I didn't even know about the document she signed for a good while. But immediately, I went down to DDSN the next day. By the time I found out, it was too late that afternoon. And I went to DDSN. I called law enforcement to find out what I could do. There was nothing I could do. They had taken Stephanie, and she was where they would not tell me where she was. In fact, they told me the first day I went down there, you have no legal rights. She is now a fully competent adult. Now get this. She is a competent adult, and she made the decision to sign herself in. And therefore, you have no rights because you do not have guardianship.
Okay, I'm gonna let you know I am listening, and the reason why I'm being quiet because I'm slowly getting angry because every time I hear this story, it just gets me riled up. This okay. So up until this point, basically, these people just kind of like breaking in a little bit. These people pretty much got a DDSN caseworker, who a representative from the government, went to your daughter's special needs class with a binding legal document and got her to sign this.
That's correct.
Even
she
though
signed herself in, even though she was in a special ed and had been diagnosed as mentally challenged.
and
she
the
functioned.
proper term for that, and even though I don't want to insult her, but the proper term for that is mental retardation. That's exactly like what that is. Like you can't. These people can't even count money, much less sign papers like that, like sign their lives over like this.
That's correct. That's exactly right. She couldn't even count change from a dollar bill. And I had a state senator,
God.
Senator David Thomas, to tell me when I went to DDSN and they refused to let us know where she was. I went from I think they took her, it was somewhere around September. And from September until December, for 4 months, we did not know where Stephanie was.
And did you try to file missing persons reports like with?
Yes, and I was informed that she was a legal adult. Even law enforcement recognized her as an 18-year-old legal adult.
And by law enforcement, you mean Richland County Sheriff's Department, correct?
No, actually, Lexington County Sheriff's Department.
Lexington. So when did Richland get involved?
They didn't get involved until she was gang raped.
Oh.
So
let's not jump that forward. I want you to explain the whole story. I want you to get all of this, because again, if anything should happen to you, I want there to be a record. I want people to know, so that they will never forget what those bastards did to you. Because I'm going to tell you, Miss Brenda, I think about you every day, and it makes me angry every time I think about it. So I want you to just tell your story. I'm gonna mute myself, and you continue. You give the whole story. I don't care if you mess up. You just do it back over. Give your whole story, because people should know what these monsters did to you. Miss Brenda?
well, I'm here, yes. I'm sorry. I apologize to anyone listening. I got a phone call. All right. So anyway, so we went from not knowing where Stephanie was, multiple trips to the Department of Disability and Special Needs, begging the state attorney at that time, who was James Hill. He was the state attorney at that time. I even went to Stan Butkus's office, and that was the director of the South Carolina Department of Disability and Special Needs, Dr. Sam Butkus. Phil Massey at the time that she was taken, was the state director. Butkus came in later. Butkus came in when she was gang raped. So Phil Massey nor Jim Hill would allow me to know where she was. Not one employee. Reddick Loring was the client advocate. She was like an advocate between the parents and the clients. Not one single person at the state agency would tell me. And for anybody out there, if they don't realize what it would be like to take care of a special needs person 24/7, and all of a sudden one day that child be missing. If you're missing, your quote, child that had no problems was missing for 24 hours, you would be all over trying to find that child. Well, in our case, we had to go 4 months not knowing where Stephanie was at. 4 months. Christmas, Thanksgiving, we did not know where Stephanie was at. And we were told, I even went to State Senator David Thomas at that time, Senator Thomas, he was an attorney and a legislator from upstate, and I went and met and sat down with him, and Senator Thomas looked at me, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "There's no way that she should have been able to have signed herself in to DDSN." In fact, later it would be Senator Thomas that would call for an audit of the Department of Disability and Special Needs. He actually called for them to be audited because of all the abuse, neglect, rapes, and deaths. And so, for the time that she was missing, which I consider that they illegally kidnapped Stephanie. They kidnapped her and they held her against her will. They refused to let her call us. She didn't get to call and talk to us. It would be months before Stephanie finally snuck and called us. A staff that was not a normal staff was working, and Stephanie snuck and used the phone, and she called me crying, and she begged me to get her out. We couldn't. I went to see attorneys, and they wanted $10,000, and they didn't. Several of them that I went to. I mean, for whoever hears this or listens, I want one thing to always be remembered, that first of all, I fought first. I took care of Stephanie. Ricky and I both did. He worked very hard so I could be home and take care of her. Then we gave her as normal of a life as she could possibly have. We made her happy. She had everything provided for her. She was a happy child. And then she went from that. She had a job at Pizza Hut that she just couldn't wait to get to. And when they took her from us, they took her out of her special ed class. They took her off of her job at Pizza Hut. So she lost everything. She lost her family. She lost her job. She lost her special ed teacher. They moved her to a different school area. And finally, they got a new attorney at DDSN. And finally, the new attorney, who is now a Supreme Court judge or a Court of Appeals judge, she intervened, and she called a meeting to make sure that Stephanie had the right to see us. And so we were...
Miss Brenda, can I pause you there?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Your story is just so heartbreaking. You had to ask for permission to see your own daughter. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, we had to ask permission to see Stephanie.
I'm so sorry, Miss Brenda. Go on. I'm sorry.
And so after about, I guess it was 4 or 5 months after they had taken her, and finally I went, and they got the attorney involved. The state DDSN's attorney got involved, and we were finally able to go to the group home and visit Stephanie. Oh, yeah, the first time I went over, when I found out where she was, I went over to see her, and the staff would not even open the door for me to go in and see Stephanie. And she refused to let Stephanie come to the door to visit me. And that's what led me to getting a hold of their attorney. And so so going forward, we did not want her there. I went to attorneys to try to get her out, and I couldn't get the guardianship. And eventually, on a visit with Stephanie, she would inform me. She said, "Mama, I've been, they had had a picnic with some clients, male clients, and he had molested her. And she was broken out with whelps all over. By that time, I was actually able to take her off. She had whelps all over her, and she was having panic attacks. And I took her to the hospital that day. And the ER doctor talked to her and verified that, she was having the panic attacks and anxiety. Well, I filed a formal complaint with the state DDSN office. You understand something? No staff member, nobody from Babcock Center reported it, and they knew that Stephanie had been molested, but nobody reported it. After I reported it, the doors went shut, and Stephanie could not see us or talk anymore. It was.
Can I ask you one question, Miss Brenda? Did you know that shortly after that, you know that that DDSN had made the executive decision to no longer inform, like to automatically inform victims' families of whenever they are raped. Did you know that they
That's
actually
correct.
changed that? And
Yes.
I'm guessing that they changed that policy because of you.
Oh, yes. They changed that policy after we won the.
Go. We're actually skipping forward a little bit. You go ahead and continue, and I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
So, fast forward, no longer again could we see Stephanie. So, understand it was, we couldn't see her, we didn't know where she was, we fought to get to see her, then we reported the sexual molestation of her, then we couldn't see her any longer. And so then Stephanie's has no advocate, she has no mother or parents or family can see her. Well, so we weren't she couldn't talk to us, she couldn't see us. They had control of her. They literally had control. And so finally, one morning, the staff came to our house and she said, Stephanie is missing. We needed to inform you that we don't know where she is and she's missing. She got out sometime through the night. And, of course, like any parent, I'm hysterical. And so, now, she said, don't come to the house, just, wait till we find her, etc. And don't come over to the house. And so I did not abide by the staff's decision. I went over to the house and I waited till she was found. Well, when she was found, they knew she had been raped. She told them she had been raped. And when I got to her, she told me, she said, Mama, she told me, she said, she knew the word rape. She said, I've been raped. I've been raped.
You mean to tell me that that it was bad enough for even someone in her mental condition to know that what happened?
Definitely, without a doubt, because there was 3 men. There were three men that night. And
do you know the names of these men? And do you mind sending me? Do you mind giving me their names? Because I have some friends who would like to go talk to them.
Yes.
Can you don't give it to me now. I'll talk to you a little bit later about that. But you continue with your story. I'm so sorry, Miss Brenda. That's horrible, and I know you've heard that. I'm sorry so many times, but if you've never heard me say it again, I'm so sorry for what happened to you and your daughter. Okay, but you can continue.
Well, thank you, Dion. All right. So going forward, so as soon as she said first one, the assistant director came up to me and said, Stephanie is fine. She is fine. And he didn't mention the rape part. She's fine. Nothing's happened. She'll be okay. Then Stephanie comes running to me and she says, Mom, I've been raped. I've been raped. So I went in the house, and of course, there was a house full of people. There was a regional director was there. There was a regional director. The place was just, the house was packed with people from the state office, the state agency, from state DDSN, the case manager, and I walked in, and Babcock Center's director, Rip Linder, was there, Rick Magner. I walked in, and Stephanie said, she looked at them and she said, I'm sorry, I told my mama. I know you told me not to tell her. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tell her.
So it's not just that you're saying this, Miss Brenda. It's that there was actually a policy, and I'm actually while I'm talking to you, I have it on screen here. I'm gonna go search out that policy real quick. Let's see. DDSN no longer automatically notify family rape victims. Let me see if I try to pull that up real quick so I can show people that you're the reason why. Okay, yeah. Here it goes. Greenville Online. This is written in 2017. Parents of rape victims at DDSN no longer automatically notified due to policy change. Family. I'm gonna read this out so that it can validate what you just said. I want people to see what you just said is actually true. So I'm gonna put it on screen on a live stream so that people who ever question you can shut the hell up. Right. So. Families of intellectually disabled adults in South Carolina can't be notified if their loved one has been raped unless they are officially made guardians, according to a new policy set last December by the State Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. That is since 2017. So that means that even if you are someone's mother or father, if you are not written down specifically as a guardian, and your son or daughter is raped, they won't even tell you about it.
That's right.
And it doesn't even matter how intellectually disabled that person is. That person can have Down syndrome, and they will still not tell you about it.
That's correct. And you know what?
Oh my God.
It also prevents them from litigation. If the parent doesn't know that their child has been raped, then DDSN will not be sued for it because the parent will never know. Because there was one male client, he has now passed away, but an attorney in Columbia handled his case in Richland County. They dismissed his lawsuit and tried to remove his mother as guardian for him, and his last name was Mims, and the case can be very well looked up, but he had been raped multiple times by staff in the Babcock Center. The Richland County Judge Casey Manning dismissed his lawsuit for his multiple rapes by many staff members, and they dismissed it. And then they went after his mother to remove her as guardian. And then we'll go down the road. So there's a pattern there. So let's go down the road to when Stephanie got raped, that they told her not to tell me. Let's finish this. Let's go to this part.
Go ahead.
So they tell me, they tell Stephanie not to tell her mother she's been raped. At that time, that policy was not in effect. They came up with that policy after the Supreme Court held them responsible. So I immediately leave the house, And I go call a reporter with the state newspaper, friend of mine, and she gets rape crisis on the phone and says, we do a 3-way, and she said, get her to the hospital. So I called state DDSN's office, Jim Hill attorney, and told him what happened to her. He called Babcock Center and said, get her to the hospital. When we got there to the hospital, Babcock Center had walked in and told Lexington Medical Center that they had guardianship of Stephanie. We were not allowed to see her, and we were escorted out of the hospital.
So they didn't allow the mother of a rape victim to see the rape victim.
Correct. In fact, a deputy was called, and he sat down in the room with Ricky and I, and he apologized to me. He said, I'm so sorry. He said, but they have guardianship of her and you don't. They lied. They didn't have guardianship. And this was Babcock Center's assistant administrator. But they had no guardianship. Nobody had ever filed for guardianship. Now, they did have the papers where she had voluntarily committed herself. But that wasn't guardianship. So we were escorted out. And to be quite frank with you, people just don't understand. That day, I thought I was going to die. There was nobody I could talk to. There was nowhere to turn, no organization. And I was literally sick. I was sick. I was literally, I thought I was going to die from it. I had to leave my child sitting in a hospital. And finally, of course, Richland County Sheriff's Department, then's when they got involved because they found out the rape took place in Richland County. So that's when they got involved. So then we go to
Miss Brenda. I'm very interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how things worked out with Richland County in terms of your daughter's gang rape.
Well, at that time, Sheriff Alan Sloan was the sheriff, and there was a great investigator, Frank Hemming, who has now passed away.
Right.
Frank Hemming had a special needs sister. And so when he found out what happened to Stephanie, he wanted charges. Ricky and I went and met at that time with Barney Gazay. And Barney Gazay informed us, he and the assistant solicitor, Johnny Gasser,
Right.
that there was no rape of Stephanie.
Really?
That she was a fully competent adult and consented to the sex with the 3 men.
The fully competent adult who can't count change, who can't count change from a dollar.
Right. Correct. Although third-degree rape says it is illegal, that it is a crime to have sex with someone who is in a state institution.
Well, it's not just that. It's that again, Stephanie was obviously mentally disabled. Like you're talking approaching Down syndrome type of levels, right? Like it's pretty obvious. Like if you actually met this woman, you would know immediately. There is no way of mixing that up, right?
You wouldn't look at Stephanie and be able to tell it, but you could spend 30 minutes with her, and you could you could ask her certain questions. And you would, in 30 minutes, you would know that, that she, a first grade reading level, she doesn't even know who the first president of the United States is. So you don't know, she doesn't know who the president of the United States is, but she consented, she was fully competent. So here's the whole list, right? So we got Barney Gazay, and so Then we got the Attorney General's office.
Can I pause you there for a second? I want people to see the Barney Gazay. Some and some people they may actually pronounce it as Barney Geese, but it's Gazay. I call it Geese, but it is Gazay. I apologize for that. However, this guy is currently passed away, and he had a DUI. It's kind of funny because he faces a new DUI charge. He was arrested multiple times for this. As you can see, solicitor Barney can say, gosh, the paywall. Let me go down here. I'm trying to find a Live 5 news. There we go, Live 5. That should be good. Live 5. Videos of release of solicitor after he was arrested. Yeah, there we go. See, that kind of stuff, I think that's very, very interesting. You know, that kind of detail, because you know, Barney can say he was known to he didn't want to seek another term going into being the solicitor again, mainly because he had gotten so many DUIs and it just had burned his reputation. But Miss Brenda, you continue. I just want people to get to know him a little bit better, you know.
Well, so then we're trying to get justice. So, you know, first we have a child kidnapped from us. Then the facility that kidnapped her, Babcock Center and DDSN, where Stephanie had never at home, she had never gotten out at home, she had never gotten raped, she was never sexually abused, she never had herpes, she had a job, she went to church, she had a family, she had her own room, she had a good life. So the state took a young lady that had a family and gave her no family. She had no parents at Christmas. She had no parents for her birthday, which her birthdays were her highlight. And so she lost everything, and so did we lose. We lost her. And so then when she's gang raped, and solicitor Barney Gazay and Johnny Gasser tells the investigator, no, she's fully competent. She's a fully competent adult. Babcock Center told us she's fully competent. Well, the director of Babcock Center, whose name is Risley Linder, Mr. Linder's no longer with Babcock, but Mr. Linder did tell Mr. Gazay that she was fully competent. And Mr. Gazay was so incompetent that he actually believed that a mentally challenged person was competent. So I began to wonder how many incompetent people that we actually had in our state. I then go, this is one mother that I want people to know something. I went every place I could go to get justice for her. So Frank Hemming, the investigator, he was still pulling, he was still pushing, he was still wanting justice for Stephanie. So the Attorney General's office, Attorney General Alan Wilson was not there at the time. We had Charlie Condon. See, I got all these people. There's a whole list of them. So Charlie Condon's office has a Medicaid fraud division in the Attorney General's office. So they get money to investigate abuse and exploitation of special needs. So I go there and I filed a complaint with them. And Bill Gambrell was the director of the Medicaid fraud division, but there was a super nice investigator who conveniently got let go after he wanted to pursue. But Bill Gambrell sat down and told me, he said, Miss Bryant, I'm sorry, but your daughter's fully competent. There's no criminal charges here. She voluntarily had sex with the 3 men, and they owe no supervision to her. because she's a fully competent adult. And I looked at him, Bill Gambrell, and I said, Mr. Gambrell, if you leave your child at a daycare center and you're paying them to care for that child and you go back at 5 o'clock to pick them up and they're not there, you're going to be very upset and you're going to be filing some charges. I said, Health and Human Services pays Medicaid dollars to DDSN, who then funnels the money to Babcock Center. Therefore, they had a duty to take care of Stephanie. So here I am having to convince the Attorney General, the Solicitor's Office, Richland County Sheriff, Alan Sloan, and then Leon Lott came in on the picture, and Leon Lott refused to do anything. So I'm trying to convince these people that...
Excuse me, Miss Brenda, can I ask you one question about Leon Lott in particular? You said that Leon Lott, you went to Leon Lott.
Numerous times did I contact him.
And you went to him numerous times. And based on the Supreme Court findings, the Supreme Court agreed that Stephanie was raped.
The Supreme Court not only agreed she was raped, they agreed that she was not fully competent,
okay,
that she was incompetent.
So you gave this information to Leon Lott personally? Or at least he knew of it.
Oh yes. Yes.
So he knew of it.
In fact,
I wanted to get that on video. I wanted to get that on video because I will be going after Leon Lott in my next video. I have the head
detective.
Go ahead.
All right. The head detective over the whole investigations went to Leon Lott. I made numerous phone calls to Leon Lott and spoke with his administrative assistant several times, and the investigator, Frank Hemming, made sure that Leon Lott knew about Stephanie's case. Leon Lott would do nothing. He didn't even push for charges. So he left 3 rapists out on the street. And they knew who they were by then. So then let's go forward. So we have everybody.
Miss Brenda, I'm listening. I want you to keep talking. I'm gonna call the Richland County Sheriff's Department, and I'm gonna put them on the phone and let them hear part of what you just said. But you just keep talking, okay? Go ahead. Just tell your whole story, baby. I won't stop you no more. I love you so much, Miss Brenda. I'm sorry what happened to you. Tell your story.
All right. So from the Sheriff's Department, from the Attorney General's office, from the Governor's office, no one would do anything about the gang rape of Stephanie. No one. And finally, I hired an attorney. First, I filed for guardianship. I was able to get an attorney to take the guardianship, file for guardianship for me, pro bono. I hired a guardian ad litem who charged me very reasonable. She met with Stephanie and I. By then, Stephanie was out of Babcock Center. We were able to get her out by law enforcement. Lexington County Sheriff's Department did help get her out. And so, by then, we filed for the guardianship. We got guardianship of Stephanie. Then I hired an attorney, and we filed a lawsuit against the State Department of Disability and Special Needs. Stephanie chose her name on it, and it's called Madison versus Babcock Center. And we sued DDSN. For any that don't know, this is the state agents, Department of Disability and Special Needs. we sued them, and we sued the Babcock Center and various staff members and the director of Babcock, Rip Linder. We filed the lawsuit, and they filed for summary judgment, a motion to dismiss it on the grounds that I want anyone listening to hear this. They were getting paid $100,000 a year to take care of Stephanie, approximately $100,000. They got her Social Security check every month, and Stephanie got $25 out of her Social Security. They kept the rest, Babcock Center. And then they had her working at a dump site in Lexington, 40 hours a week in the freezing cold. And they were paying her $1 and something an hour. And Stephanie was working for $1 and something an hour. And Babcock had a contract with Babcock Center had a contract with the Department of Disability, or with Babcock Center. Babcock Center had a contract with Lexington County, through the county, and they were getting paid just like any other company would. So anyway, long story short, Babcock Center was making money off of Stephanie. Then when she gets gang raped, they argue that they owed no duty of care to the mentally challenged, not just Stephanie. They owed no duty of care to any of their mentally challenged, and that their mentally challenged are fully competent, and that Stephanie was responsible for her gang rape. And this was argued before Judge Casey Manning, and Judge Casey Manning agreed. Judge Manning dismissed her lawsuit, and he agreed that she was a fully competent, mentally challenged person that consented to the sex with the 3 young men. At that time, my attorney quit, and at that time, within 30 days, I did file an appeal, a notice of intent to appeal, in the Court of Appeals in Richland County. Almost unprecedented, the Supreme Court of South Carolina reached down to the Court of Appeals and picked up the lawsuit, and they said that it was, or picked up the appeal, that it was unprecedented because there had never been a opinion on behalf of the duty of care from the state agency to the mentally challenged. And so they took
Ms.
Stephanie's
Brenda,
case.
Can I ask you one question? Because, I mean,
Yes.
what you just said was incredible. So basically what your case caused was a precedent, meaning that because you won that case, other patients are protected. Because you won that case, basically.
That's correct. It has been
My
cited
God.
all over. It has been cited in every case involving abuse, neglect, deaths, and rapes of special needs.
And it's
Not
been
only-
used as far as the U.S. Virgin Islands, right?
That is correct. A year and a half ago, it was used in the Virgin Islands. There is Springer is in California, and they write books and medical sites, medical, and the Supreme Court decision has made it all the way in California in a book. So the Supreme Court went above what we had asked for. We originally just appealed so that Stephanie could get her day in court, a trial. And the Supreme Court went above that. They issued the 39-page opinion their opinion stated Stephanie was on a first grade level. Stephanie was not competent, and Stephanie, in fact, could not make the decision to have rape. And in fact, they went so far as to saying that a jury could determine, since that she was raped by 3 men, that it would be more than one claim. It would be multiple claims against the state of South Carolina, which would break the tort of the $300,000 cap. Well, DDSN, their attorney is a gentleman by the name of William H. Davison. He's the attorney that's contracted and paid for by the state taxpayers. Well, DDSN's contract, the Insurance Reserve Fund contracted with Mr. William H. Davison, and he's the one that fought to make sure that Stephanie did not get a dime for the gang rape. And finally, when the Supreme Court ruled and remanded it back for a day in court, they had to find a way to get her mother and to get the lawsuit ended. And that would be, of course, then we will be going into the next, we'll say next chapter, next phase. And so, Dion, if at all possible, I want to take a water break from, just get something to drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, take a little break. In fact, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 30-minute break, and we're gonna come right back. Don't hang up the phone. You're gonna still be on the line. I want people to know what happened to you, Miss Brenda. In fact, give me a second. I'm gonna go download your video so that while people are waiting for us to come back, they could be watching the video to kind of see what happened to you, so that they can understand why I took on your case, and why your case is so important. This is truly an injustice. It's truly something that, to be quite honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen before, and to be frank with you, I don't think I'm ever gonna see again. Basically, I'm gonna just go ahead and just try to grab your video real quick, because I mean, I want people to see this, man. This is just, I took your case, not because, like, you know, I felt pity for you. I do feel pity from you, and I love you, Miss Brenda. But the reason why I took your case was your daughter. That's the part that made me mad. You know, it's like, I get people can be cruel to, you know, people that are like able-bodied, people that are like in their like right mind, but it's cruelty to treat your daughter that way when all she wanted and what all you wanted was justice. It's just cruelty to treat you like that, and that's what I could not accept. I couldn't just accept that. I couldn't accept, you know, you being abused like that. Screw that. I'm just not gonna tolerate that. I had to say something, and so, you know, I remember talking to Tom Young. I talked to G. Merle Smith. You know, like a lot of the politicians, and it just seems like they're like in on it. I gotta say. Do you feel like they're...
G. Merle Smith has represented, in fact, I got a case that down the road I want you to get involved in. There's 2 cases that come out of Sumter. One was where 8 special needs were gang raped. They were raped, not gang raped, but they were raped. One multiple times by the Sumter County Disability and Special Needs Board director. And
wait, whoa. A patient was raped by the damn director?
The director of the facility, that's Sumter Disability and Special Needs. While you're on here, you can pull him up. Sherelle Holder. Sherelle Holder, Holder. Sherelle Holder was arrested for raping multiple special needs clients. And they were not going to, they left him on bond for 8 years until I was researching and found that he was still out on bond.
Oh my God. Okay, Miss Brenda, we're gonna take 30 on that note. Let's take 30. That was, oh my God, that you run a care facility. You're a director of a care facility for disabled adults and like mentally disabled adults, and you're raping them.
That's
what
right.
The
and guess what? He's not even on the sex registry. Somebody got a good. That's right. They didn't put him on the sex registry, and they dropped his charges down to assault of special needs, and he only served 1.5 years in prison for it.
Don't you worry. I'm gonna light his ass up. Anyways, let me go ahead and take on 30.
And you can thank our Attorney General Alan Wilson, because I have a friend that wrote Alan Wilson a letter, and she wrote him a letter telling him that they needed to prosecute Sherelle Holder, and the Attorney General's office refused to prosecute him.
I've had the exact same experience, but let's go ahead and take
all right, let's do it.
30. All right.
All right.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a 30-minute break. That was Miss Brenda Bryant. We're gonna come back with her. That was crazy. All right, guys, be right back.
Must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. A riot is the language of the unheard.
There are some people who love to pretend that there are no problems with policing and courts and everything else. And there's some people who make it about race and say that it's just Black Lives Matter and Antifa and other groups who are complaining about this. Well, unfortunately for that point, I'm not going to begin this video with an example of a black person. Instead, I'm going to use an old white woman. This woman's name is Brenda Bryant. She's a fugitive. You see, Brenda Bryant is a target of retaliation from the state of South Carolina through systemic targeting that made her a criminal somehow. And it's all because she won a Supreme Court case against the state of South Carolina where she was seeking justice for her daughter who was mentally disabled, who was gang raped and got an STD. And when the state would not prosecute, she sued the adult care facility in which her daughter was supposed to be watched. I've interviewed her several times. I have her phone number. I know her personally. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does this 60-plus-year-old woman who bakes cookies end up becoming a fugitive? Well, you see, her daughter, Stephanie Bryant, she is mentally disabled. And according to Supreme Court documents from the state of South Carolina, she has the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old.
Because it's all about the government controlling the person, taking the person for profit, that they can make money off of through the state and federal dollars. When she was 2, she was diagnosed and with mental retardation. Now we call them special needs, but still she was delayed. In other words, at the age of about 20, Stephanie was on an 8-year-old level.
When Stephanie turned 18, officials from the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, or DDSN, showed up to Stephanie's high school and essentially coerced her into signing herself into an adult care facility.
So I stayed at home, kept Stephanie, and about when she turned 17, her case manager began to tell me that she needed to go in a group home, that she would learn so much more and she would become more independent, and that it would, just
be more suitable for her? And I said, no, Stephanie is fine at home. She is my child, and she will stay at home until I'm not able to take care of her. So the case manager, every time we had a meeting, she continued to bring that up. She would even talk to Stephanie about it. Well, eventually, I just adamantly said no. So Stephanie turned 18. She went to school one day. The class mother for her special needs class for 2 or 3 years. Stephanie didn't come home on the bus. She never came home. And I thought there was a bus accident. So I called the school, and they said, no, there was no report of an accident. I called her teacher, and I would learn that the case manager went to her school and had Stephanie to voluntarily sign herself in to the group home.
Wait, so let me make sure I understand, make sure I repeat this, because again, some people watching this may find this to be a little bit hard to believe, and you can't blame them, Brenda. This sounds outrageous. But basically, what you're saying is that a DDSN caseworker showed up to your daughter's special needs class with a binding legal document and got her to sign it.
Yes.
When you were her legal guardian.
I was not her guardian. I was her mother.
So basically, they saw it as, okay, this is a person who's just mentally disabled going to a high school, but we're not going to actually contact the mother before we get her to sign this.
That's correct. And in fact,
she had a job working as a dishwasher at Pizza Hut, something she loved and looked forward to. State was in control of my child. They got her Social Security check. They began to work her. They worked her on a county dump site, paying her like $1.35 an hour, working her about 40 hours a week. This went on from September until it took me 4 months to finally find out where my daughter was. We did not have the thousands. I went to see an attorney, and at that time, we are talking about 25 years ago, there was no way, the attorneys weren't even that familiar with special needs, the state agency for mentally challenged, and the guardianship issue for special needs. That was 25 years ago.
Once in that facility, Stephanie was gang raped and got an STD. When Brenda heard about this, she was obviously upset.
Stephanie was in the group home. Probably, she went in 93, so about 2 years, and we couldn't get her out. And so one morning, the staff member appeared at my house about 10 o'clock, and she said to me, Stephanie is missing. And I said, what? And she said, Stephanie's missing. We filed the proper reports. Of course, my worst nightmare as a mother. In all the time she had lived on, Stephanie had never once gotten away from me. My worst nightmare as a mother was the morning they come and told me my child was gone. 3 men picked her up, and they took her across town and gang raped her all night. The next day, she would be found. She was found the next day. And the agency, and I'm shortening this, but the agency told Stephanie not to tell me she had been raped. The administrators, there were several administration people and the staff, and when I was at the house and they had found her, they had talked with her before I was able to get to her, and they told her not to tell me. They weren't going to take her for a rape protocol.
I did that. I called the DDSN attorney, who then instructed Babcock Center that Stephanie was to be took to the hospital.
Let me
They
pause
were
it
under
there.
the impression.
Let me pause it there. They didn't allow you, the mother of a rape victim, to see the rape victim.
Well, we went to the hospital, my husband and I. When we got there, the group home had gone in and informed the hospital that they personally had guardianship of Stephanie, and there was no guardianship. Therefore, that we were not allowed as her parents to see her.
That's correct.
And there was actually a rape kit done.
Yes, it was.
And the rape kit indicated signs of sexual assault, correct?
Definitely.
Because that's what you presented to the Supreme Court, who agreed that Stephanie was raped.
Correct.
So she went to the then Richland County, South Carolina solicitor named Barney Geese. This man claimed that Stephanie Bryant, a woman with the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old, was a, quote, fully competent mentally disabled woman, end quote. I remember that quote, and I remember when I first wrote your story, and I read what Greenville News put out and the nerve with Rick Bergeret, and I read that quote. That Barney Geese actually said that the reason why Stephanie could not have been raped is because she was, quote, and I'm actually quoting him. He said that she was a fully competent, mentally disabled woman.
That's correct.
She brought the case before the South Carolina Supreme Court in a case that is named Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center. And the Babcock Center is a place where Stephanie Bryant was supposed to be watched and cared for. The reason why they called it Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center is because the name was changed to acknowledge that Stephanie Bryant was a victim of sexual assault. If you were to read the South Carolina Supreme Court documents, the Babcock Center claimed that they had, quote, no duty of care, end quote, because of a black and white view of either watching Stephanie all the time or none of the time. And that is despite the fact the Babcock Center and DDSN were receiving Stephanie's monthly Social Security benefits, meaning they were getting paid by South Carolina taxpayers, and on their watch, this woman was raped and got an STD.
No one told us that Stephanie had an STD herpes. We finally got guardianship. I filed for guardianship and got her out of Babcock Center. And no one told us that Stephanie had the STD. They sent her back home to us, never telling us. It was not until I got her records from Babcock Center, for the attorney got her records, and we went through them, and it said sexually transmitted disease that Stephanie had gotten as a result of that rape that night.
Long story short, Brenda Bryant won the case in the South Carolina Supreme Court. And given what the Babcock Center and DDSN and South Carolina tried to claim, had Brenda Bryant lost that case, do you understand the implications of that? Okay, so what the Supreme Court said is that Stephanie was not competent enough to consent because she had the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old. But this judge that came before the Supreme Court in a lower court, he claimed that she was mentally competent.
He put that in his order.
Then you told me that Judge Edward Sylvain, he presented a letter from DDSN stating that you should be removed as guardian, and this was during the Supreme Court case.
Now, the letter was sent while we were in the Supreme Court. It was sent by the Greenville Disability, where Stephanie was at. It was sent by their attorney.
Right.
But understand that DDSN and Greenville Disability are connected. DDSN funds the Greenville Disability.
Right.
And so that letter was sent during the course of the Supreme Court case. And so it was not presented, though, for 5 years. Judge Sylvain did not bring it up, didn't present it. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is this. He didn't care about Stephanie's welfare until there was $120-something thousand going into a trust account.
And the next thing you know, the probate judge says, I've got this letter. And he said, I'm concerned. I don't think that you might not have her best interest. I'm going to appoint my own guardian ad litem, which was Teresa Horton. Well, they had not bothered me until I went to set the trust fund up with Stephanie's money. Well, at the end of the year, the bill for the guardian ad litem and the guardians just happened to be, their bill just happened to be almost $115,000. Stephanie would have left Stephanie approximately $5,000 of her $120,000.
She found herself in courtroom after courtroom being charged legal fee after legal fee to the point where the money that she won from the Supreme Court case was all taken away by South Carolina courts through civil fees. And so when Brenda Bryant couldn't afford to pay, a bench warrant was issued. And so begins Brenda Bryant's long journey of injustice, of being persecuted, all because she has a history of going after the South Carolina government and winning.
The one thing that was being pushed by the agency at that time, they were asking legislators for respite dollars, respite money, so that parents could have a break. And so, long story short, the legislators approved the respite money, and when they did, the state agency didn't assist the parents. I became the voice for the parents, and I confronted the state agency. I said, wait a minute, you've got money for respite, why? And then long story short, on that part, so I became, you might say, I began to question the state agency on our services. I believe that was the beginning at that time, because I was questioning how they were using the funds that were supposed to be appropriated for families to get them some respite relief.
And they want to silence her, because how do you explain someone who has a daughter who's been raped, gets an STD, the state refuses to prosecute? That state's own Supreme Court sides with this woman, and somehow she ends up becoming a fugitive. And when she became a fugitive, she was placed into the FBI's National Crime Information Center report listing. Sometimes this is called a NICS check. It's the same FBI check that you go through when you buy a firearm. This woman was placed into the NCIC as a violent offender, even though she had no violent offenses. And the way that I confirmed this, and the way that 18 publications from South Carolina confirmed this, was that she was picked up in Buncombe County in North Carolina. And both I and 18 other journalists called Buncombe County, and they confirmed that she was placed into the NCIC, which prompted Buncombe County at that time to call South Carolina and informed them to never place anyone else into the NCIC as a violent offender if they're not actually a violent offender. This woman is living in exile right now. She ain't been home in over 9 years. We have a pandemic going on right now, and her husband is a senior citizen who is 70 plus years old and has had 3 massive heart attacks. She has emailed judges and politicians to beg to come home to see her daughter, who is probably alone and confused and scared without her mother, who protected her throughout her life, and her husband, who could die at any point. And yet South Carolina has been so cruel, so vindictive, so disgusting that this state persecuted Brenda Bryant for no other reason than she fought the power and won. And yet there are people out there with the nerve and the audacity to ask, why is there anger? This woman has my phone number. She calls me. She's alone, scared, and confused. And there are people out there, pieces of human garbage, who would have no empathy for that woman. Had Brenda Bryant lost that case, do you understand the implications of that? Her case has been used as a precedent as far as the U.S. Virgin Islands. If care facilities have no duty of care, as the Babcock Center tried to claim, that means that your loved one, should they be gang raped and get an STD, no one will be held accountable.
I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. A riot is the language of the unheard.
There are some people who love to pretend that there are no problems with policing and courts and everything else. And there's some people who make it about race and say that it's just Black Lives Matter and Antifa and other groups who are complaining about this. Well, unfortunately for that point, I'm not going to begin this video with an example of a black person. Instead, I'm going to use an old white woman. This woman's name is Brenda Bryant. She's a fugitive. You see, Brenda Bryant is a target of retaliation from the state of South Carolina through systemic targeting that made her a criminal somehow. And it's all because she won a Supreme Court case against the state of South Carolina where she was seeking justice for her daughter who was mentally disabled, who was gang raped and got an STD. And when the state would not prosecute, she sued the adult care facility in which her daughter was supposed to be watched. I've interviewed her several times. I have her phone number. I know her personally. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does this 60-plus-year-old woman who bakes cookies end up becoming a fugitive? Well, you see, her daughter, Stephanie Bryant, she is mentally disabled. And according to Supreme Court documents from the state of South Carolina, she has the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old.
Because it's all about the government controlling the person, taking the person for profit that they can make money off of through the state and federal dollars. When she was 2, she was diagnosed and with mental retardation. Now we call them special needs, but still she was delayed. In other words, at the age of about 20, Stephanie was on an 8-year-old level.
When Stephanie turned 18, officials from the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, or DDSN, showed up to Stephanie's high school and essentially coerced her into signing herself into an adult care facility.
So I stayed at home, kept Stephanie, and about when she turned 17, her case manager began to tell me that she needed to go in a group home, that it would be, she would learn so much more and she would become more independent, and that it would, just be more suitable for her. And I said, no, Stephanie is fine at home. She is my child, and she will stay at home until I'm not able to take care of her. So the case manager, every time we had a meeting, she continued to bring that up. She would even talk to Stephanie about it. Well, eventually, I just adamantly said no. So Stephanie turned 18. She went to school one day. The class mother for her special needs class for 2 or 3 years. Stephanie didn't come home on the bus. She never came home. And I thought there was a bus accident. So I called the school, and they said, no, there was no report of an accident. I called her teacher, and I would learn that the case manager went to her school and had Stephanie to voluntarily sign herself in to the group home.
Wait, so let me make sure I understand, make sure I repeat this, because again, some people watching this may find this to be a little bit hard to believe, and you can't blame them, Brenda. This sounds outrageous. But basically, what you're saying is that a DDSN caseworker showed up to your daughter's special needs class with a binding legal document and got her to sign it.
Yes.
When you were her legal guardian.
I was not her guardian. I was her mother.
So basically, they saw it as, okay, this is a person who's just mentally disabled going to a high school, but we're not going to actually contact the mother before we get her to sign this.
That's correct. And in fact,
she had a job working as a dishwasher at Pizza Hut, something she loved and looked forward to. State was in control of my child. They got her Social Security check. They began to work her. They worked her on a county dump site, paying her like $1.35 an hour working her about 40 hours a week. This went on from September until it took me 4 months to finally find out where my daughter was. We did not have the thousands. I went to see an attorney, and at that time, we are talking about 25 years ago, there was no way, the attorneys weren't even that familiar with special needs, the state agency for mentally challenged, and the guardianship issue for special needs. That was 25 years ago.
Once in that facility, Stephanie was gang raped and got an STD. When Brenda heard about this, she was obviously upset.
Stephanie was in the group home. Probably, she went in 93, so about 2 years, and we couldn't get her out. And so one morning, the staff member appeared at my house about 10 o'clock, and she said to me, Stephanie is missing. And I said, what? And she said, Stephanie's missing. We filed the proper reports. Of course, you know, my worst nightmare as a mother. In all the time she had lived on, Stephanie had never once gotten away from me. My worst nightmare as a mother was the morning they come and told me my child was gone. 3 men picked her up, and they took her across town and gang raped her all night. The next day, she would be found. She was found the next day. And the agency, and I'm shortening this, but the agency told Stephanie not to tell me she had been raped. The administrators, there were several administration people and the staff, and when I was at the house and they had found her, they had talked with her before I was able to get to her, and they told her not to tell me. They weren't going to take her for a rape protocol.
I did that. I called the DDSN attorney, who then instructed Babcock Center that Stephanie was to be took to the hospital.
Let me pause it there. Let me pause it there. They didn't allow you, the mother of a rape victim, to see the rape victim.
Well, we went to the hospital, my husband and I. When we got there, the group home had gone in and informed the hospital that they personally had guardianship of Stephanie, and there was no guardianship. Therefore, that we were not allowed as her parents to see her.
That's correct.
And there was actually a rape kit done.
Yes, it was.
And the rape kit indicated signs of sexual assault, correct?
Definitely.
Because that's what you presented to the Supreme Court, who agreed that Stephanie was raped.
Correct.
So she went to the then Richland County, South Carolina solicitor named Barney Geese. This man claimed that Stephanie Bryant, a woman with the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old, was a, quote, fully competent mentally disabled woman, end quote. I remember that quote, and I remember when I first wrote your story, and I read what Greenville News put out and the Nerve with Rick Bergeret, and I read that quote. That Barney Geese actually said that the reason why Stephanie could not have been raped is because she was, quote, and I'm actually quoting him. He said that she was a fully competent, mentally disabled woman.
That's correct.
She brought the case before the South Carolina Supreme Court in a case that is named Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center. And the Babcock Center is a place where Stephanie Bryant was supposed to be watched and cared for. The reason why they called it Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center is because the name was changed to acknowledge that Stephanie Bryant was a victim of sexual assault. If you were to read the South Carolina Supreme Court documents, the Babcock Center claimed that they had, quote, no duty of care, end quote, because of a black and white view of either watching Stephanie all the time or none of the time. And that is despite the fact the Babcock Center and DDSN were receiving Stephanie's monthly Social Security benefits, meaning they were getting paid by South Carolina taxpayers, and on their watch, this woman was raped and got an STD.
No one told us that Stephanie had an STD, herpes. We finally got guardianship. I filed for guardianship and got her out of Babcock Center. And no one told us that Stephanie had the STD. They sent her back home to us, never telling us. It was not until I got her records from Babcock Center, so the attorney got her records, and we went through them, and it said sexually transmitted disease that Stephanie had gotten as a result of that rape that night.
Long story short, Brenda Bryant won the case in the South Carolina Supreme Court. And given what the Babcock Center and DDSN and South Carolina tried to claim, had Brenda Bryant lost that case, do you understand the implications of that? Okay, so what the Supreme Court said is that Stephanie was not competent enough to consent because she had the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old. But this judge that came before the Supreme Court in a lower court, he claimed that she was mentally competent.
He put that in his order.
Then you told me that Judge Edward Sylvain, he presented a letter from DDSN stating that you should be removed as guardian, and this was during the Supreme Court case.
Now, the letter was sent while we were in the Supreme Court. It was sent by the Greenville Disability where Stephanie was at. It was sent by their attorney.
Right.
But understand that DDSN and Greenville Disability are connected. DDSN funds the Greenville Disability.
Right.
And so that letter was sent during the course of the Supreme Court case. And so it was not presented, though, for 5 years. Judge Sylvain did not bring it up, didn't present it. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is this. He didn't care about Stephanie's welfare until there was $120-something thousand going into a trust account.
And the next thing you know, the probate judge says, I've got this letter. And he said, I'm concerned. I don't think that you might not have her best interest. I'm going to appoint my own guardian ad litem, which was Teresa Horton. Well, they had not bothered me until I went to set the trust fund up with Stephanie's money. Well, at the end of the year, the bill for the guardian ad litem and the guardians just happened to be, their bill just happened to be almost $115,000. Stephanie would have left Stephanie approximately $5,000 of her $120,000.
She found herself in courtroom after courtroom being charged legal fee after legal fee to the point where the money that she won from the Supreme Court case was all taken away by South Carolina courts through civil fees. And so when Brenda Bryant couldn't afford to pay, a bench warrant was issued. And so begins Brenda Bryant's long journey of injustice, of being persecuted, all because she has a history of going after the South Carolina government and winning.
The one thing that was being pushed by the agency at that time, they were asking legislators for respite money so that parents could have a break. And so, long story short, the legislators approved the respite money, and when they did, the state agency didn't assist the parents. I became the voice for the parents, and I confronted the state agency. I said, wait a minute, you've got money for respite, why? And then long story short, on that part, so I became, you might say, I began to question the state agency on our services. I believe that was the beginning at that time because I was questioning how they were using the funds that were supposed to be appropriated for families to get them some respite relief.
And they want to silence her because how do you explain someone who has a daughter who's been raped, gets an STD, the state refuses to prosecute? That state's own Supreme Court sides with this woman, and somehow she ends up becoming a fugitive. And when she became a fugitive, she was placed into the FBI's National Crime Information Center report listing. Sometimes this is called a NICS check. It's the same FBI check that you go through when you buy a firearm. This woman was placed into the NCIC as a violent offender, even though she had no violent offenses. And the way that I confirmed this, and the way that 18 publications from South Carolina confirmed this, was that she was picked up in Buncombe County in North Carolina. And both I and 18 other journalists called Buncombe County, and they confirmed that she was placed into the NCIC, which prompted Buncombe County at that time to call South Carolina and informed them to never place anyone else into the NCIC as a violent offender if they're not actually a violent offender. This woman is living in exile right now. She ain't been home in over 9 years. We have a pandemic going on right now, and her husband is a senior citizen who is 70 plus years old and has had 3 massive heart attacks. She has emailed judges and politicians to beg to come home to see her daughter, who is probably alone and confused and scared without her mother, who protected her throughout her life, and her husband, who could die at any point. And yet South Carolina has been so cruel, so vindictive, so disgusting that this state persecuted Brenda Bryant for no other reason than she fought the power and won. And yet there are people out there with the nerve and the audacity to ask, why is there anger? This woman has my phone number. She calls me. She's alone, scared, and confused. And there are people out there, pieces of human garbage, who would have no empathy for that woman. Had Brenda Bryant lost that case, do you understand the implications of that? Her case has been used as a precedent as far as the U.S. Virgin Islands. If care facilities have no duty of care, as the Babcock Center tried to claim, that means that your loved one, should they be gang raped and get an STD, no one will be held accountable. All right, guys. So, Brenda, I'm gonna wait for Miss Brenda to come back. She's taking a little bit of a break. I took a little break to make myself a sandwich. So, good old beef sandwich. All right, so now, so we can get Miss Brenda back, we're gonna be covering some news stories real quick. All right. So we're gonna go with the Fox News first, because I'm gonna go to Fox, MSNBC, CNN, Newsmax, all of them. Now, there's a few good stories that I saw on here that I thought was pretty interesting. Failed firewall. I thought that was interesting. All right. Russia hack claims. What is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA? Established under President Trump in 2018, CISA operates under DHS oversight. It's written by Morgan Phillips of Fox News. All right. So the federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, recently reported widespread hacks. There's always some advertisements. Widespread hacks involving government agencies and private businesses. An apparent attack linked to Russia that may have gone unreported for up to 9 months. The hack compromised federal agencies and, quote, critical infrastructure, end quote, in a sophisticated attack that was hard to detect and will be difficult to undo, CISA announced in an unusual warning message Thursday. Established under President Trump in 2018, CISA operates under the Department of Homeland Security oversight. Its activities are a continuation of the National Protection and Programs Directorate, or NPPD. CISA was established when Trump signed the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Security Agency Act. That is a mouthful of vegetable soup right there. CISA's mission is to, quote, building national capacity to defend against cyber attacks, end quote, and to, quote, and to work, quote, with the federal government to provide cybersecurity tools, incident response services, and assessment capabilities to safeguard the .gov networks that support the essential operations of partner departments and agencies, end quote. CISA is an independent arm under DHS, on par with the Secret Service or Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. All right, so Christopher Krebs was CISA's first director. He was fired by President Trump in November. Like the NPPD, CISA oversees the Federal Protective Services, FPS, the Office of Cyber and Infrastructure Analysis, or OCI, or the OCIA, the Office of Cybersecurity and Communications, or OCNC, and the Office of Infrastructure Protection, or OIP. In an effort to reduce CISA's backlog in cybersecurity vulnerability assessments, a Senate panel recently proposed offering CISA an additional $59 million in the fiscal year 2021 budget. For the 2020 election, the agency conducted 131 remote penetration tests and 59 on-site risk and vulnerability assessments for local election and infrastructure, and approximately 263 election officials around the country are receiving weekly vulnerability scan reports. It also helped train thousands of election officials through online security courses. This month, CISA reported a massive ongoing hacking campaign believed to have started in March and be the work of Russia. The Energy Department, the Department of State, the Defense Department, and DHS have all reported being compromised. Those government branches joined earlier assessments confirming that the Departments of Treasury and Commerce had been breached in what investigators believe to be a mass-scale Russian intelligence operation. On Sunday, CISA announced the intrusion involving SolarWinds Orion products, which is now under FBI investigation, and directed all federal agencies to disconnect from the breached network management software. SolarWinds clientele roster traverses some 300,000 organizations, including other sensitive federal agencies ranging from the Department of Justice to the Centers of Disease Control, as well as thousands of private companies. That is insane. But we're gonna move on. That is gonna keep moving here. So almost all Fortune 500 companies are reported to use SolarWinds products to scan their networks, including major defense contractors such as Boeing, according to the New York Times. Russia has denied involvement in the campaign. Nonetheless, preliminary reviews of the encroachments suspect that the sophistication of the attacks lends itself to the work of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, or SVR, the espionage wing that succeeded the Soviet Union's former secret police, or the KGB. The belief that the SVR is behind the attacks stems from the hackers being especially judicious in drawing data from particular targets. Oh man, that is ridiculous. I'm gonna leave that link in the chat. You guys can have that. That is pretty wild. I gotta say, that is pretty wild. Basically, given that they've pretty much, I mean, I think they even got into like Raytheon. They've gotten into Raytheon. They got into Boeing. I mean, I think so. Like, don't quote me on that. But these people, whoever they were, and personally, I believe that they're Russians, because only the Russians really would have the capability to pull something like this off now. So I mean, so let's see. So let's go back here. All right, so I'm gonna go and That's for Fox News. Let's go to MSNBC. There was one story I saw that just, ooh. All right. So we have a white-only church. Right-wing SJWs have come up. White-only religious groups aren't new to America. Trump's helped reinvigorate them. White-only churches are making more space for white Americans who have lost faith in democracy and replaced it with Trump. So you have white-only churches. Okay, in 2015, the Asatru Folk Assembly, a religious group devoted to the worship of the Norse pantheon, opened its first physical house of worship in Brownsville, California, calling it Odenshof, the Temple of Odin. In a celebratory post on the AFA's Facebook page, Odenshof is revealed to be a red building adorned with Nordic runes and flanked by a celebratory posing crowd, every single one of whom is white, the California sun shining through their sheaths of blonde hair. Now, the triumph is punctuated with the curious imprecation with the tint of fascism. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA. Much like the crowd picture in the Facebook post, the folk being hailed by the AFA are unambiguously white. On its website, the religious group declares itself to be a solid spiritual force for our ethnic European folk and extorts traditionally minded sons or daughters of Europe to join. The group has sought to dramatically expand its operations this year, and amid a contentious anonymous city council vote, the small Minnesota town of Murdoch has found itself playing reluctant host to a new Hoff, having leased a vacant church building to the group, offering an enclave to a religion explicitly premised on white separatism. Originally founded in the 1970s as a Viking brotherhood, the AFA has morphed from a romantic celebration of Viking myths to an explicitly racist endeavor. What the religious scholar Matthias Gardell calls the biologization of spirituality. So basically, they are worshiping the idea of being white. They're not just being white. They're taking whiteness to a whole new fucking level. That's what they're saying here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so the AFA is representative of a militant strain of Norse paganism that makes a religion of whiteness itself, and ethno-religious separatism whose boundaries are explicitly racial. See that explains Aiden Paladin now. Aiden Paladin, that explains her now. That explains her. That explains her. It makes a lot more sense now. She worships. She actually worships. She thinks that she's a descendant of a Norse god. She tried to have her boyfriend, change a Wikipedia fucking entry about the Holocaust. She says a lot of racist shit about the race realism. Now, it makes a lot of sense now. The organization's founder, Stephen McNallen, has repeatedly embraced the racist slogan known as the 14 words, as the 14 words. We must secure the existence of our people and the future for white children. First promulgated by the white supremacist terrorist David Lane. The group's current leader, Matthew Flavel, has spoken at a celebration of the centennial of American Nazi Party founder George Lincoln Rockwell's birth, and at a racist conference whose other guests have included Holocaust deniers, according to the West Central Tribune newspaper Wilmar, Minnesota. The founder of Modern Asatru in the United States, actually we're getting a call from Brenda Bryant, so we're going to come back to this article. But we're getting a call back from Brenda Bryant, so I'm going to go back to that call. All right. All right. All right. All right. We are getting a call back from Miss Brenda. Hey, Miss Brenda, are you there?
I am here.
All right. All right. All right. So we're gonna go back to your story. Let me go bring it back up. Madison Bryan v. Babcock Center. And we're back here. All right, so we're gonna go back there. Okay, so Miss Brenda, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a brief recap. So, Miss Brenda, you've shared your story so far. The story so far is that, and just stop me if I say anything wrong. This is kind of like condensed. I'm not gonna include everything because, again, the first part of it, I'm gonna give you a link to this whole thing. That way you can have this. So you can have the whole story. Like, no one's gonna like stop you like this time. But basically, your daughter Stephanie Bryant was coerced into signing herself into an adult care facility, and when she got into that facility, she was gang raped and got an STD. And the state of South Carolina refused to prosecute, including the Richland County Sheriff's Department, and specifically a solicitor named Barden Geese in Richland County. But you said that you went to Sheriff Leon Lott about it, and that's where we kind of like left off. You went to Sheriff Lott, and what did he say?
Sheriff Lott would not get involved in it, and the sheriff's department would not prosecute. They would not arrest because they said that Barney Gazet was not going to prosecute. Therefore, they could not make an arrest because the solicitor's office refused to prosecute it.
That the thing about that though, is that does that make a whole lot of sense to you? Like what he said, because this solicitor wouldn't do something that it stops the cops from doing something, from making
right.
an arrest. Okay,
So,
I could totally
right.
see if they could say these people aren't going to be convicted, but that does not stop you from arresting someone. You can arrest someone for pretty much anything if you're a cop, because you have qualified immunity, don't you?
Right. Well, it's like if I went or someone went out and let's say they robbed a convenience store. Well, you're not sure if the solicitor is going to prosecute it, but that doesn't mean when the police get there, they're not going to arrest them.
Right.
So actually, the arrest was up to the sheriff. He was the one that should have arrested these three guys, and he did not.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that for me one more time, because I want people to hear that.
The arrest was up to the sheriff and his deputies, his investigators. Whether they were going to be prosecuted or not, the responsibility lies on the sheriff to make, and his officers to make that arrest.
So in other words, what you're telling me is that because again, I talked to did you see that one video on my channel where I called Richland County and I tried to report my own sexual assault, what happened to me as a kid, and the sheriff's deputy started laughing at me, and I got it, and I actually got that recorded.
I did. Well, I did. I did.
So did you know that I talked to Internal Affairs, who claimed that the guy that I talked to claimed that he actually knows you, that you're one of his friends, that he thinks that what happened to you was so terrible. And I told him, I said, well, if you think that, then why wouldn't you go talk to Leon Lott, who still won't to this day go and arrest the man who raped that girl, that woman's daughter. And I want to let you know that they're claiming that you are on their side, that they're claiming that they did right by you, that it wasn't their fault, that they had nothing to do with it, that if they could do something, they would have, basically, because they were on the phone with the journalist, they were just lying to me. So what do you have to say about that, Miss Brenda?
Well, I will say this. As a mother, and going down there and making multiple trips and sitting down with investigators on several occasions, and no arrest happened, again, whether they were going to, they weren't the one to decide whether they were going to prosecute it. Their responsibility was to make the arrest. So what happened was they now left 3 young men that raped her. These were 25, 26-year-old, 27-year-old, one with a history of sexual assaults, and they left them out. And so they left them in Richland County. How safe should women feel? How safe should anybody feel, for that matter, when they left the rapist and did nothing to them?
You're saying that one of them has a history of sexual assault?
Oh, yes. And in fact, he was arrested after he raped Stephanie. He actually was arrested for making obscene phone calls.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I want to definitely. Yeah, I want to get to know him. I want to get to know him personally. I want to get to know him. So make sure you give me his name. Please give me his name. Please.
And Richland County is the one that arrested him. So let's see. They arrested him for making obscene phone calls, but they didn't arrest him for raping Stephanie and giving her herpes.
Jesus.
He was the one who gave her the herpes.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man! Listen, like every time I hear that, Miss Brenda, I get so mad. But I want you to continue with your story. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself. Just continue on from after the point that basically where you had to go up to the Supreme Court and actually start like suing.
So, to recap, I'd already stated that we went to the Richland County. We filed a lawsuit in Richland County against DDSN, the Department, for those that don't know. This is the Department of Disability and Special Needs. Again, I'll recap. They get hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to care for special needs from the federal government. They were getting a Medicaid waiver to provide 24-hour supervision for Stephanie and 15-minute bed checks. They provided neither the 24 hours nor the 15-minute bed checks. Stephanie was missing for well over 8 hours before they ever missed her. When she didn't come to breakfast is when they missed her, so nobody did bed checks. The staff went to sleep. So then, as I stated earlier, no one, the Attorney General's office, the Solicitor's office, the Sheriff's Department, even the governor, no one would do anything about the gang rape of a special needs person. So we then filed the litigation. The lawsuit was then dismissed in the circuit court by Judge Casey Manning, who had been employed during college by the Babcock Center. He stated that during the hearing. He said, Babcock Center's a great place. I worked there while I was in college. So he took roughly a year and a half, 2 years to finally do an order that he dismissed her lawsuit, and he agreed with the Department of Disabilities that they owed no duty to Stephanie. So then's when the notice of intent to appeal was filed, and then's when we went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court actually picked it up from the Court of Appeals, as I said earlier. It was unprecedented. I've had attorneys to tell me that it is unprecedented for an attorney to get a case picked, that for the Supreme Court to reach down and take a case from the Court of Appeals. But the Supreme Court saw the appeal, the notice of appeal in the Court of Appeals and the case, and they determined that because there had never been a precedented opinion for special needs, that they were going to take the case. So they reached down and took it. I never had to file anything in the Supreme Court. And then we went to trial. We went to a hearing before the Supreme Court. And the sad thing, I'm going to reiterate something I think is very important. You've got a case where a special needs person is gang raped and the news media wouldn't even cover it. My friend that worked at the state newspaper said she went to her editors repeatedly and wanted to do something on it, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do a story. Do you know, we get all the way in the Supreme Court. Not every case makes it to the Supreme Court. We get all the way in there. And the day of that hearing, there's not even a reporter that showed up.
It's almost as if they were almost like paid off to not cover the case.
Well, I can tell you this. You remember the rape story I was telling you about Sherelle Holder?
Right.
I'm looking forward to telling you how that story got squashed. There was a huge story that was going to be done by a local TV station, one in which I'm the one that gave them the story, and they went all the way to Sumter and found where Sherelle Holder was out working. He was working in a downtown store while on bond for raping clients. He had a job working downtown Sumter.
That's insane. But continue with your story.
So anyway, as I said, there was nobody covered it. That was okay. I got to sit and listen in the Supreme Court to unanimous justices state that there was no way that Stephanie was responsible for her rape. And in fact, one of the justices chastised William Davison's law firm that was defending the gang rape and said, "What are you doing? Do you mean that you're trying to argue to us today that the taxpayers are paying money for these special needs to be cared for, and you're trying to tell us you're not responsible?" So not only did they reverse and grant Stephanie a trial, they actually issued a 39-page opinion, but they remanded it so Stephanie could get a court hearing, a trial that she never got. And that would be where the real conspiracy came in. DDSN, the state agency, could not let Stephanie's case be tried because that trial and the jury trial would set the precedent for the Supreme Court opinion. The actual trial would. And so Stephanie was in a group home in Greenville, South Carolina, under the Greenville Board, and the only reason she was there was because her dad had a massive heart attack and was in the hospital, and then I had spinal cord injury. So we had to have help with her. And we thought she would be safe there. We thought she'd be okay, but we were just down to desperate. We had to have help. Little did we know that Greenville Disabilities would conspire with the Department of Disability, the state agency, to have me removed as her guardian. They wrote a letter. In fact, Greenville Disability got their attorney, their law firm, one of the largest in the United States, to write a letter to the probate judge. They never served me with a copy of it. stating that they did not believe I should be Stephanie's guardian any longer, that I refused to let her go to church, I refused to let her have a job. Now, let's recap. This is the mother that let her work at Pizza Hut for 2 years. But their allegation was I refused to let her have a job.
Did they have any kind of proof for this, or did they just claim it?
The only thing that they had was when she went to Greenville, she got molested in their workshop. And it was verified that it happened. And I requested that they no longer send her to the workshop.
Wait, so there's been multiple incidents with your daughter? Multiple incidents?
Goodness. Yes.
So,
yes.
To recap, in case anybody who's just joining, to recap what's happening here, I'm interviewing someone who's on the run, technically speaking, a fugitive. But if you knew why she was, you would know why it's so fucked up. I hate to use that kind of language, Miss Brenda, but let's just be honest. That's what it is. Like, you gotta. It's at some point you just gotta call a spade. Her daughter was gang raped and got an STD, and I hate to keep saying that, but I have to kind of like recap people who are just joining, and the state refused to prosecute. The same sheriff's department that was involved in my child molestation that they refused to prosecute the man who's now a high school principal in South Carolina, in Greenville, in the same place where her daughter was gang raped, Greenville. It was the Greenville Disability. It was a house there. And
Wait a minute. Hold on. Stop.
Right.
She was gang raped in Lexington at the Babcock Center. Then she went to Greenville and got molested in Greenville.
Oh yeah, so it's very, very similar places. It's all the general same like area, and it's basically a lot of the same people that are involved. So when Brenda won a Supreme Court case in South Carolina, she was assigned. There was all kind of silly stuff that happened. Basically, long story short, and I'm gonna let her fill in all those gaps, but long story short, she ended up becoming a fugitive because she couldn't afford to pay a bunch of civil fees when it was intentionally designed for her not to be able to do so as a form of retaliation to shut her up and also to make her case go away. But her case has been so good, and it actually set a precedent for Supreme Court cases and also for legal cases that it's been used as far as the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I'm gonna shut up and let Brenda continue.
From there, when Stephanie was in Greenville, and she began to get molested in the workshop, I then reported that to DDSN. I reported it again, and it wasn't just Stephanie, it was 3 young ladies, Stephanie and 2 other young ladies. And by that time, in 2006, you can look it up, SLED was then made given the money to start a vulnerable adult unit at South Carolina law enforcement. So Chief Mark Kill was getting a huge budget so that DDSN no longer could investigate the abuse and neglect of clients. However, unfortunately, when I would call to report, SLED would not investigate the cases. So we got a unit sitting over there.
So you had multiple cases in which you were just reporting stuff, and SLED wasn't even looking into it, like whatsoever?
That's correct. That is right. In fact, we have the 3 clients that were molested in the workshop, and SLED nor law enforcement would do anything about it. And which is ironic. I'm the mother that's reported the molestation, the rape, not only of Stephanie, but of other clients. The murder of one client that I have the death certificate for, and then the rape by the Sumter director, and I'm the one that they refused. Then, of course, we would be going down the road a little further. But in other words, I'm the one punished, and I'm the one reporting the abuse and neglect, while the people that have abused them, neglected them, raped them, molested them, they're not even being arrested. They're not even spending time in jail. They're not even getting an arrest, let alone being convicted. And
Right. So I want people to understand this. The reason why Brenda Bryant is a fugitive, the reason why she's being retaliated against, is because Brenda Bryant has a history of going at these people. Because whenever they went, because again, she's one of those, and Brenda, don't take offense to this, but she's one of those older women who sit and she will look up bills. She will look up the budget. And she will actually see, okay, this money is going here, this money is going there, and she will actually hold politicians accountable. Because I know Brenda, she actually still does that now. So she would do that, right? And because she did that all the time, and she would annoy politicians and annoy state agencies who were wasting taxpayer dollars, well, they wanted to get rid of her, and also that she won a Supreme Court case against the state of South Carolina. And pretty much, I mean, when you've given South Carolina so many L's over and over and over again, and you keep getting all these W's, what would you do to silence this woman? So
well, and that's what they did, or that's what they've attempted to do. My friends would say never. That they've still not silenced me. However, they have, in fact, this will be 9 years that Ricky and I, we're going on 9 years that I've not been with my family. This will be 9 years that I've not been home for Christmas. I don't want, I'm not asking for people's pity or sympathy. I actually made a choice. I made the decision to put disabled people above myself, because to me, they are helpless and they have no voice for themselves. And who could, I count myself very blessed. I count myself blessed that God allowed me to be a voice, to speak up for these. Many of them don't even have parents alive, and they were being beaten, molested, raped, and one murdered. And I know he was murdered because I have his death certificate. And a certain House of Representative by the name of G. Merle Smith defended the murder of Michael Farrah. That'll be another story down the road. For anyone that questions this, I have all the documentation.
This is not right. This is too cruel. I want to help you. I want to help you so bad. I just don't know how anymore. I've the reason why it's just a very difficult story for me is just like I know that what happened to your daughter was real, because it's my story. The same sheriff's department who wouldn't do anything to help me, and I'm so sorry for that. I am so sorry that your country has failed you. I am so sorry, Miss Brenda. You're a good person. You're a really good person. And I want you to know that. You don't deserve this. It's too cruel. Brock Turner gets to walk free. George Bush gets to walk free. Donald Trump gets to walk free. Joe Biden gets to walk free. Jeffrey Epstein, hell, his ass is walking free for all kind of years until they finally caught him, and so they freaking Bill Cosby. But you gotta be in freaking exile. It's not right. You didn't do anything. You simply fought for freaking disabled people and you won. And you want to know how I know that you did it, Miss Brenda? Because my own grandmother, when her name was Annie Elizabeth Rhines, and there was actually a care facility that she was getting bed sores, so we actually took him to civil court. And the lawyer, one of the cases that he cited, now that I actually pulled the actual documents, was Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center. So if it wasn't for you, Miss Brenda, I owe you. My whole family owes you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to thank you for what you did. You know, because what you did, it didn't just help your daughter. It helped everybody, and people all over the country has been using this case as a precedent without knowing the sacrifice that came behind it. And damn it, I think people should know. So you can go ahead and continue with your story. I'll shut up. But this is just it's just so heartbreaking, you know.
Well, you know, Dion. All right. So we're going to get to the part where they filed the attorney filed the letter with the probate court. Now I want people to understand that for 10 years I was Stephanie's legal guardian. For 20 years, basically, with the exception of the time she was in Babcock, we kept Stephanie at home. So you've got parents that kept her at home over 18 years. Then you've got her. Then you got Stephanie. I become her guardian, and I'm her guardian, legal guardian for 10 years, and nobody bothers me, nobody questions it until we settled with Babcock, and just a few weeks away from the trial with DDSN. We were only a few weeks away, and all of a sudden, we went to set the trust fund up. Now, what unfit parent would go find a probate lawyer and go set up a trust fund?
You set up that trust fund because you are a good parent.
So we went to set it up, and the probate judge, Edward Sylvain, looked at us and said, I think I want to appoint my own guardian ad litem. And he did. It was a friend of his, Teresa Horton. And as soon as Teresa Horton saw $120,000 laid that was going to be in the trust fund, and not only that, then Teresa Horton was working with William Davison in Richland County to get me out of the Richland County lawsuit. The reason I know it is I have a court order that says it. So anyway, we go to the probate court. We go to set the trust fund. The judge removes me or appoints a guardian ad litem. She then gets a temporary restraining order. Stephanie's in Greenville disability. She gets a restraining order that I can't see Stephanie. And I just won a landmark lawsuit for her. Landmark took 10 years, and yet the reason she claimed it was because she didn't think that I was good for Stephanie. This is a woman that never interviewed me, never sat down and talked to me, never did a visit with me. She made her own determination that I was not, that Stephanie needed a new guardian. And so she recommended Tracy Parsons. And the probate court, even though the South Carolina ombudsman, there was one investigation done, the South Carolina Lieutenant Governor's ombudsman investigates neglect and abuse also. And they went to Greenville, God love him, but a guy named Rodney Pigford, he went to Greenville, and I have his report and findings. And he cited the Greenville Disability, their staff, for psychologically abusing Stephanie. And they gave her psychotropic drugs and let her keep them and self-medicate, which is against DHEC's it's a violation of DHEC, so he cited them for
Right. The thing about it is like stuff like weed and that kind of stuff is not good for people like Stephanie because, you know, like people like usually weed is not dangerous, but someone like that you cannot give weed to because it increases like paranoia and that kind of stuff. And you got somebody with the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old with like heightened paranoia in a fully grown adult body. That's not good, bro. So like continue. I'm sorry.
And then you give her the bottle of medicine and let her take her own doses.
Wait, what?
Yes, they let Stephanie
What?
self-medicate. Yes.
Oh my God. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
The medicine was supposed to be locked up in a cabinet, and the staff was supposed to administer the medicine. They gave Stephanie the medicine and let her self-medicate herself. That's what Rodney Pigford found out, and that's what's in his report. That he cited them because they violated DHEC by self-medicating. I've got the report, and in fact.
Wait. Can you send me that report? Because I want to see that. That is just if that's true. Oh my! What in? That is the craziest thing I have heard in a very long time.
She could have overdosed.
You gave someone who the Supreme Court has said has a mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old her own bottle of medicine to take by herself. And these are prescription grade medicines that you're giving her.
Right. So
oh my God.
Yes.
And that's in an actual official report.
Yes, it's in a report. And in fact, the investigator from the Ombudsman's office went and sat down and met with the director of Greenville Disabilities, Mr. Brent Parker, and he cited them for it.
Okay, let me just recap what we got so far because this is a bombshell story. The person that I have on the line with me, her name is Brenda Bryant. She's one of my first stories that I covered because Brenda Bryant's story is absolutely insane. She's a fugitive. But if you understand the reason why she's a fugitive, you would probably agree that it's some nonsense. Basically, her daughter Stephanie Bryant was gang raped and got an STD, and when the state and when specifically Leon Lott of the Richland County Sheriff's Department, the one that shows up on Live PD with Lieutenant Brown, when they refused to prosecute the men who raped her daughter, she took it up to the state Supreme Court, where she won in the case called Madison Bryant v. Babcock Center. That case has been cited. It is cited every year, no less than a couple of maybe about 5,000 to 6,000 times. Every year, because every time there's a case of a care facility neglecting people, that case is almost surely going to be cited. It's been cited as far as the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it took place in South Carolina, which should tell you a lot. Now, what happened as a result of that is that shortly afterwards, there was a guardian ad litem that was assigned, and then over time through legal fees, all the money that Brenda won for Stephanie was taken away by South Carolina courts, and then when she couldn't afford to pay the last little bit, a bench warrant was issued, and Brenda hasn't been home in going on 9 years. Brenda, you can take it away from there.
As soon as Teresa Horton and Tracy Parsons were appointed Stephanie's guardian ad litem and guardian, and I was removed, my husband and I hired an appellant attorney by the name of Rob Stillwell. He is now a circuit judge in Greenville who was just recently reappointed by the Judicial Merit Commission. So a circuit judge clearly would not have taken a case had he not saw that there was something to it. So he filed the appeal and appealed the probate court's removal of myself as Stephanie's guardian. I have the order from Judge John Few, who now sits on the Supreme Court. And Judge Few, in his order, which, by the way, you can go and read on the National Association for Guardianship Abuse, there's a national organization. They highlighted the story and carried the story for years. The last they did an article in 2019, but the point they made then was that Judge Few, in his opinion, to send it back to the probate court for a new hearing and removing me, was that Judge Edward Sylvain ignored pertinent evidence that Stephanie was being allowed to self-medicate and was being alienated and psychologically abused by the staff and the guardian ad litem, Teresa Horton. Therefore, when Judge Few ruled that, and Judge Few said that he had a very hard time, it was very hard time severing the relationship between a mother and a special needs child. And so he sent it back for a new hearing, and when he did, Teresa Horton and Tracy Parsons resigned. So some could say I won a victory. I did win a victory there. The only problem was Judge Edward Sylvain looked at Teresa Horton, whose bill was $90,000 to Stephanie for 1 year, and said, Teresa, you are going to take some money, aren't you? And Judge Sylvain, Teresa Horton walked away from her bill. She said, no, I just want out of this. Tracy Parsons wanted $10,000. I refused to pay her because Stephanie was assaulted every bit of 5 times under Tracy Parsons. The Greenville Sheriff's Department, Malden Police Department, was called out several times because Stephanie was assaulted. In fact, Rob Stillwell wrote a letter to the guardian, Tracy Parsons, and said that I told her that I was concerned because Stephanie had been assaulted, and that there was a private home she could move her to in Florence. And Tracy Parsons wrote him back and said, I'm aware that Stephanie has been slapped in the face, but had she followed DDSN's protocol and locked herself in a room, she wouldn't have been hit. So I've got that letter also.
Hold on. I think I just had like an aneurysm. Did this exceptional individual, did she say that it had your daughter, a mentally disabled woman with the mindset of a 7 to 10-year-old, had they just followed instructions? You know, something that a 7 to 10-year-old probably doesn't do very well.
Right.
Right. They wouldn't have been hit. So not only did they attempt to blame her for her own rape, they attempt to blame her for her own assaults.
That's correct. And so she refused to move.
I'm gonna tell you, stuff like this is the reason why we have a Second Amendment. But you continue.
Well, she continued to get assaulted because Tracy Parsons' letter says there has been another altercation and another altercation. And so once she was asked by Rob Stillwell to move Stephanie and given an option and refused, Stephanie continued to be assaulted. And then they ordered me, Judge Edward Sylvain ordered me to pay this woman $10,000. And I told him no, I refused. I filed a motion for reconsideration. I appealed him to the Greenville Circuit Court. And then eventually I would be told that there was a rule to show cause hearing, rather. I had to go to the Greenville probate court. It is very, very rare that anyone is ever arrested in a probate court. I showed up in the probate court, and Greenville deputies were there. And Judge Savane said, handcuff her, and said, Miss Bryant, you're going to jail. No 30 days to pay, no 5 days to pay. He said, you're going to jail. You're sentenced to 6 months in jail until you pay that $10,000.
6 months. Wait,
So,
isn't that like a wait? I thought we outlawed this. This is that is unconstitutional because that is exactly what a debtor's prison is. It's when you imprison someone without because they didn't pay something,
That's right.
the fact that he actually say this? Do you actually have a record of him saying that? Because if you have a record of him saying that, you need to go to freaking Joe Biden and go to the freaking Biden administration and say, I am a mother being persecuted because I protected a damn rape victim, and I guarantee you someone's gonna do something. Because you again, you gotta get off that Trump train because Trump ain't did shit for you. Your husband wrote that letter, right? Your husband wrote that letter and he didn't say a damn thing, did he?
well, we do in defense. President Trump never got the letter.
Wow. So you never got a letter again. I know that he did get a letter because I also sent one, and because I wrote letters and I sent emails to everybody. I didn't know what else I could do. I tried to call everybody, and I think we might have found some avenues, but Miss Brenda, I want you to know your story. When people hear it, there's a reason why they always ask for evidence. Do you understand why they ask for evidence?
Oh, yes.
Because
I
it
do.
sounds insane.
Oh, yes, it sounds like something you make up, but I'm so thankful tonight that, for one, I have my evidence. And in fact, I'm very thankful because now there's a couple of legislators that have the evidence that they're not on the judicial merit, but they have the evidence. And so, for anyone that's doubting this tonight, it is a bizarre story. In fact, I had a friend yesterday, he told me, he's an attorney, and told me that somebody approached him a few days ago and asked him, said, asked him if he was familiar with my case. And, it was like, did this really happen, Tell me something. I mean, for anyone listening, I want y'all to be aware, I want people to be aware of something. I think probably if I were to simplify everything is, first, my daughter was kidnapped. Second, my daughter was gang raped. Third, the state agency that kidnapped her stated they owed no duty of care to her or to any mentally challenged. Fourth, so remember, this is very important. You kidnap somebody's special needs child. You kidnap someone on a level of less than 10 years of age that can't even write her name hardly, and you kidnap her. Second, you don't let her parents know where she's at for months, which is horrid. It's beyond humane. What Ricky and I have lived through has been inhuman. What these people have been willing to do to us. What they have done to me, Ricky, and Stephanie. To our family, in fact. Third, then, once the Supreme Court said, nope, you're responsible. She's getting her day in court. What did they then have to do? They had to get rid of her mother. They then had to come up with a plan that Stephanie would no longer be able to see her mother anymore, and the very lawyer that defended the gang rape then filed a motion in the Richland County Court to remove me as the plaintiff in the lawsuit and the guardian for Stephanie in the lawsuit.
Wow. So basically, this is all a very, very long veil attempt to get rid of you, as basically try to keep you from suing them again. Basically.
Oh, Stephanie was supposed to have her day in court and she never got it.
So basically, the men who raped her will never see justice, and on top of that, there will be no additional lawsuits because they made you a fugitive.
That's right. The Richland County judge. Listen, you know, for most people that know me, well, have there been times that I've cried? Yes. I mean, you know, who wouldn't? There's been a lot of times I've cried. But, you know, for many that know me, I've never given up. And it's been long years, but here's and of course, you know, our family has been completely separated. But here's what I want people to always know is this, one thing that's very important. They gave me 9 years to fight for other special needs and to expose. And if you look on the Greenville News website, you will see multiple stories about DDSN. There were never any stories about DDSN. And a friend of mine and I spent 2 years tracking their cases. That's how we found out about Sherelle Holder. That's how we found out about the murder of Michael Farah. And actually, they probably have got more retaliation for me now than ever. I want to, you know, reiterate this, that, of course, I spent the 30 days in jail. We paid the guardian $10,000. It was just short of no time. Also, when we sued her, Judge Edward Miller ordered me to pay her legal fees, even though I had an attorney. He ordered me to pay her attorney, which is almost $10,000. And so Judge Miller, of course, I filed a notice of intent to appeal again, and Judge Miller was under appeal. And in fact, he held a hearing while under appeal, while the appeal had been clocked in the notice of intent.
Wait. Yeah. That's something that I want to note. There's actually someone named Carrie Barber that's in the chat. Hey, Carrie, if you're listening, if you heard what she just said, that's actually true. This judge held a hearing while a case was under active appeal. I'm not sure how that's possible, but I thought that when a case is under active appeal, you can't really touch it until that appeals case, right?
That's right. The United States Supreme Court stated that as opinion, and it is case law that a judge lacks subject matter jurisdiction once he has been appealed on that matter. He can hear other things, but he cannot hear anything pertaining to the matter that he has. And he held the hearing on March 14th. The notice of intent to appeal was clocked in prior to the hearing, and the remitter was not sent back for 4 months. And he issued the bench warrant April 16th while still under appeal. 3 weeks, over a month ago, during the judicial merit selection hearing, which is online, it can be viewed under the Family Civil Liberties Union. Representative Merle Smith asked Judge Miller, he said, I've got a concern here. Judge Miller Miss Bryant filed an appeal. So Judge Miller said yes. He says that it was dismissed. And Representative Smith said, well, Judge Miller, the remediator, the case was still under appeal when you issued the bench warrant, when you held the hearing. He said, I've got the remediator here. See, all of them have the remediator, all the merit commission members. They have the appeal, and they still reappointed him. Even though they knew he was under appeal, they still voted to reappoint him. But at least Representative Smith did recognize, being an attorney, that Judge Miller couldn't do what he did. And so Judge Miller, of course...
let me pause right there. Carrie, the South Carolina bar is garbage. They don't do anything. They're paid off by politicians. They're not going to help us. So there's no point. I called that office several times, and from what I've seen, I'm not going to tell you how I know this, but I know for a fact that most people in that office are paid off. Continue, Miss Brenda.
So he held the hearing. We did not appear, my attorney nor myself. He held both of us in contempt, even though he was under appeal. He issued a bench warrant. A bench warrant that could have gotten me killed. He had the Greenville Sheriff's Department entered it into NCIC for me to be picked up out of state, that they would drive to North Carolina or surrounding states to pick me up. And the Greenville Sheriff's Department sent and the affidavit, the fugitive warrant that was done. And by the way, a fugitive warrant is not supposed to be done on a civil matter. That's only for someone that has been criminally charged and that is considered a felon. And of course, as Alan Wilson, it wasn't Alan Wilson at that 2012, the Attorney General's opinion.
Yeah, he already said that. Yeah, he didn't. He said in 2012, and it's actually a publicly available PDF file. In fact, I'm gonna search it out real quick while I'm talking. But basically, what happened is that Mark Keel, who's the DEN's division, the SLED division chief, he sent a letter to him, and here's a copy of the letter. I'm gonna drop in the chat, that way everybody can see it. This is the letter copy right here that he sent, and for some reason, when Mark Keel asks, can we place people into the NCIC for civil offenses, basically, the South Carolina Attorney General's flat out said, no, you can't do this. The NCIC is the National Crime Information Center report listing. It's not the National Civil Information Report listing, meaning, no, you can't just put people into the NCIC for civil offenses. And that's exactly what happened to Walter Scott, and that's what happened to Brenda Bryant. The state of South Carolina just keeps doing that, and that's what Brenda meant by they could have got me killed, because she knows what happened to Walter Scott, because she was the person who originally told me about Walter Scott, about how he was placed into the NCIC, and then when I went to go research it, coming to find out, she was right. So, Ms. Brenda, you can continue. We might have to go ahead and wrap it up soon, but go ahead and tell the rest of your story, and also tell about how you've been treated by cops ever since. I'm gonna mute myself for the next 20 minutes, and you just go ahead and you just tell your story.
Well, of course, I did not know that Judge Miller had issued the bench warrant, because I knew he was under appeal, so I was clueless about a bench warrant. And I was driving through Asheville, North Carolina in April, end of April, first part of May, and I was pulled over and stopped. And they claimed that they had mistaken my car. that they thought it was a vehicle involved in a hit and run. That's what they claimed. Now, when we get to a certain place, I'm fixing to tell you that I've been being tracked, and I know this, and I'll tell you in a minute how I know it. They claimed that they wanted to just stop me because they thought I'd been a hit and run, and then they said, no, this is not a hit and you're not the vehicle, and said, how about giving me your license? And I handed him my driver's license. I mean, I could have left right then, but that I didn't know, so I gave him my license. And he said, step out your car, give me your keys now, step out and step out slowly. Because, right. And on the NCIC, they put out there that I have violent tendencies, to be cautious.
I'm here. I'm listening to you. I just want you just to talk, because Miss Brenda, I'm trying to get you some help, because the right person might have heard this. So just keep talking, keep giving your story, and let people know what happened to you.
So he said, give me your keys now. He said, right now, step out your car and step out slowly. And that by then it was about 3 officers. So they took me to jail, Buncombe County. No bond. I was to not get any bond. And Greenville said that they would pick me up out of state. And so the magistrate asked me, did I want to fight extradition? And I said, yes, definitely. So I did. And because Greenville, because it was put in as it was criminal, I got a public defender. And the public defender, he said, this is so illegal, what has been done to you. So anyway,
Still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
I just want you to keep talking, because I'm on the phone with somebody who's trying to help you now. So just keep talking.
So there was a public defender, Sam Sneed, and he's been so helpful to me. So Sam Sneed talked to me, and he went before the judge, and the judge told him to get me out that day. The superior judge in Asheville, North Carolina said, get her out right now. And so they released me that day. It was about 5 days I was in there. And so when they released me, I had to stay in Asheville in a hotel 90 days to wait to see if South Carolina was going to extradite me. Well, Mr. Rodney Pillsbury, the attorney for the guardian that I owed him the $10,000, he called the public defender. Within 2 days, he called the public defender and asked him not to represent me. So anyway, so I ended up spending 90 days for extradition, and the short version of the rest of it is this. They did not extradite me back to South Carolina. I am out of state still, and I would eventually call SLED. And I believe that my case is why that Attorney General opinion. So anyway,
All right, Miss Brenda, I'm here. Give me a quick second. Miss Brenda, I want to thank you for coming on. But Miss Brenda, that's all the time that I have for today. Miss Carrie said that she wants to interview you. So again, I want to get your story out there to as many people as possible. And I told her that you will tell the story to as many people who actually wants to hear. So pretty much, I want to, and right now we're trying to make phone calls, and we think that your story needs to go federal, because you know I can't tolerate this anymore, and that's why I wanted you on the show. I got to do something about this, Miss Brenda. This is not right. You're not a criminal. You're not a bad person. You are a good human being. Who honestly, I wish you were my mother, because of things, I know you would have kept me safe, but this isn't right, and I want to try to help you.
I want to close with saying this: my husband and I, by God's grace, this is so different than what our life was, and we're not perfect people, but we've always loved, we've always cared for people that are helpless. And for 10 years, we did a Christmas project for a children's home. And I just want people to know that our life changed because of what the system did to us. Our life has totally changed. We're not perfect. We're not good. We're not these self-righteous people. But we cared about Stephanie. We cared about special needs. I thank you for the time, Dion, tonight. And I thank anybody that listens to this. I thank you for listening, and I thank you for caring. But I want you to know something, that, the bottom line is, this is a conspiracy totally against me for defending the very people that the state of South Carolina should have been protecting and defending. And Dion, last week I called the Greenville Sheriff's Department. I've been for 4 weeks working on trying to get me out of NCIC. And do you know that the Greenville Sheriff's Department asked me, they said, "Are you still in Tennessee?" And I'm not in Tennessee, but they have been tracking me.
So they've been trying to find you still. All right, I'll deal with those fucking road pirates. Don't you worry about it. But Miss Brenda, that's all the time we have for today. Listen, I want you to know that I love you. I love you with all my heart. You want to know why? Let me tell you why. The kind of people that I like the people who do things without there being any kind of clear benefit for them doing it. You didn't sue for the money, because Miss Brenda, if it were about money, you wouldn't be getting other people fired because they actually abuse the mentally disabled. You're doing this because of your daughter. That's why you do it. Because a mother's love is something that is something that honestly you do not want to get in the middle of, because you will get yourself hurt. Because a mother's love is something that never goes away. And I want to thank you just for being a good mom, and also thinking of other people. And I want you to know that I love you. I love you to death. And I want to see you come home.
Thank you, Dion. Well, I appreciate you very much. And we're all, we should all care about human beings, and I think that's all that God left me here. He let me be a voice for those that are helpless, and I'm very honored, and I'm so appreciative that he allowed me to be a voice for the disabled. And and it's going to work out one day.
I mean, but I'm actually angrier about this than you are. I mean, because you have a gentle spirit about you. You never was an angry person. You didn't have a mean bone in your body. You the only thing you wanted was just justice for your daughter, and it's so sad that hasn't happened yet. Again, I'm sorry that your country failed you. I really am.
That's okay. Well, guess what? We're not finished yet. So it's not over, Dion.
It's not over. All right. I love you, Miss
That's
Brenda.
right.
And that's gonna be it for
I
the
love you
Pitchfork.
too. God love you.
Yes, ma'am. It's gonna be it
All
for
right.
the Pitchfork podcast, guys. Thank you all for joining in. Tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anyways, until next time, it's been Devil's Advocate, aka Dion McNeil. Horns up. Peace out. And remember, keep Brenda Bryant in your prayers, guys, and never ever stop fighting, because she has never stopped fighting. She is my hero. She's my reason for to keep going on. I love that woman. She has balls, bigger balls than what I could ever hope to have. Be safe out there, guys. Again, horns up. Peace out.